Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So, Jarron Ennis defeats Eimantas Stanionis by a 6th round corner retirement. And I have to say, as far as I'm concerned, this goes down as Ennis' best career performance. Not only on paper was Stanionis his best opponent to date, on paper, but he just performed really well, I felt. Last fight, Boots got a lot of criticism for his performance against Jarron Ennis. That was their rematch, of course. He got criticism for their first fight as well. Jarron went the distance in both fights. And, they weren't great performances from Boots. There was a lot of moments where, he would switch off, he would lose concentration. He would get caught by silly shots that he shouldn't be getting caught with. And as well, people questioned his inability to stop Jarron. And they weren't his best performances. However, against Stanionis, who came into this fight with a bigger reputation, I felt it brought the best out of Ennis. Like I say, he was sharper, he looked more accurate, looked more quick, put his shots together really, really well. Great variety in his work. Offensively very good. So don't get me wrong, there were still times he was getting caught in this fight. Boots is going to give you those opportunities, but, he does take risks, and that's just part of his style as far as I'm concerned. And, for me, in this bout, Boots was basically in control from first bell to when it ended. First round, it was kind of a feeling out round. Boots was actually boxing orthodox, throwing the jab, backpedaling, lateral movement, and he was picking a couple of good single body shots. There was a good right uppercut to the body, a good looping shot to the body. Stanionis came in with his high guard, landed a couple of jabs, but nothing too serious. After round one, Stanionis tried to be a bit more active with his punches, started to throw more jabs. A few jabs got through, but, when Boots would open up, he would totally nullify Stanionis. A lot of times, Stanionis would just cover up when Boots would fire a combo. And, in doing so, he was getting outworked. He was blocking shots on the gloves, don't get me wrong, but a lot were getting through. A lot were piercing the guard. A lot of body shots were getting through. And yeah, when Boots went through the gears, you could tell the difference in speed, difference in quality overall. There were moments where Stanionis would punch with Boots and he would land like a single counter. Like there was a moment, I think, in round 2 where he landed a really good left hook counter. But the issue for Stanionis, for me, was all of what he was doing when he did have success. It was basically single punches. A single hard jab, a single counter left hook, a single counter overhand right. And he landed some decent shots, but he just couldn't get the respect of Boots. And after round 2, I felt, Boots was just going through the gears, mixing it from body to head, sometimes countering Stanionis when Stanionis would lead. And he was having it all his own way. And like 3rd round, 4th round, Stanionis' face started to break up. Bloody nose started to swell a little bit. And yeah, he wasn't having the necessary success. Also, he wasn't able to find the body, which I felt if Stanionis was going to somehow win this fight, and I was picking Ennis, but if Stanionis was going to win this fight, he would have to find that body, and he didn't. It was Boots finding Stanionis' body. Round 5 was actually a good round for Stanionis until it wasn't. For like 2 minutes of a round, I felt Stanionis was probably outlanding Boots, landing some good jabs, couple of good chopping overhand rights. Boots' output wasn't quite as high in round 5 until the last minute. The last minute, Boots really opened up with combinations, uppercuts, hooks, body shots, and I felt that took the play away from Stanionis. He was having his best moment in the fight, and what I liked about Ennis, he wasn't content just giving the round away. He snatched the play away from Stanionis, and that was a really good in-ring decision, because you don't want to give your opponent momentum when he's had a bad start. You know, you don't want to give him confidence by letting him win a round or letting him have a round of success. So last minute, Boots really put it on Stanionis, and I felt that won him the round. So 5 rounds in, I've got it 5 rounds to 0 in favour of Ennis. And round 6 was where the fight ended. Again, Stanionis trying to maraud forwards, trying to fire the overhand, you know, trying to jab out of the guard, but, you know, Stanionis was just getting pieced up. And towards the end of the round, Boots landed, I think he landed like an uppercut to the solar plexus, which made Stanionis take a back step. Boots then followed in, landed a series of body shots, I think followed by like another uppercut. Stanionis takes a knee due to the barrage of punches. Stanionis beats the count, but, you know, that's basically all she wrote. Stanionis goes back to his corner and his trainer, Marvin, you know, the guy who works with Freddie Roach, the Filipino guy, he waved the fight off. And I have to be honest, Stanionis was taking a pasting. He was taking a beating, but here's the bloodlust in me, I guess. It was round 6. You know, it was round 6. It was a unification fight. I felt they pulled him out too early. Don't get me wrong. It looked like it was going one way, but at the same time, I don't really think that's a satisfactory way to lose a unification fight. Do you know what I mean? I felt they pulled him out a little too early. Personally, you may disagree with that. He was losing every round, and he was taking punishment, but it's boxing. You know, it's boxing. That's what this sport is about, and it's a unification fight at welterweight. You know, it wasn't like Stanionis wasn't throwing. He was throwing, and he was landing at times, but yeah, I think they should have let him continue for a couple of rounds at least, but I don't think it would have made any difference to the result. But, you know, just as a boxer, just as a fan, I kind of wanted a bit more action because, have to say, I enjoyed Boots' performance. Again, I think it's the best he's looked for a long time. Again, probably his career best performance, I would say. So he becomes a unified welterweight champion. He's the IBF and now the WBA champion. Where does he go from here? Well, you know, there's Brian Norman, who is the WBO champion, I believe. I think that would be a good fight. Brian Norman looked good in his last bout. That could be a good scrap. Brian Norman versus Jarron Ennis. I'd like to see it. I don't know who the who's the WBC champion? Mario Barrios? Have to be honest, I've got no interest in a Mario Barrios fight. I don't rate Barrios. You know, he's just a belt holder. I think Boots would go through him like a hot knife through butter, personally. I think Brian Norman, although he's still somewhat unproven, I think Brian Norman looks more impressive than Mario Barrios. And I think that would be a better fight, personally. But, listen, good performance by Ennis, and I think he needed it. Not only because of his last fight, but, you know, he suffered a lot of bad press after he didn't fight Virgil Ortiz. And I don't think that was a good look for him. So he needed this performance against a guy who was a champion, you know, in a unification fight. And he got it. So, listen, fair play to Boots. I'm intrigued to see where he goes next. But anyway, guys, share your thoughts below. Beanie Guy Del Boy. Peace.